Good morning and welcome to the councillors of the South Burnett Regional Council, senior management team and invited guests. It's with much pleasure that I will now open the meeting dated today, the 29th of April 2020. There is no leave of absence, so we'll move on over to you. We could thank you very much, Pastor Lyle Slinger, for being with us today. We'd be most grateful if you would share with us the opening prayer. Thank you.
But since I was last here, obviously, and so I want to recognise our new Mayor, Brett Otto, and we met just last week, which was great, and our new Deputy Mayor, Gavin Jones, and some new councillors and some old timers, but that's not said in a bad way. So it's good to be back again with you all. And for those who don't know, I'm Pastor Lyle Slinger, and I pastor the church on the way out towards Cumbia, Church in the Marketplace. That used to be the old indoor cricket centre many years ago, and some of you probably played cricket there in the old days. And not only am I a pastor, I'm a businessman. I'm involved very heavily in the Bosie industry in the South Burnett, so I have a foot in both camps. So I'm very interested in seeing our community moving forward and being prosperous and doing really well. I'm sure you all are too. And but I believe at the end of the day, we as pastors in our churches and you as the council, we have so many things in common, which is about seeing the best for our community, going forward and prospering and doing well. And, I believe that, we can say why, because I reckon the word's out there that Kingaroy in the South Burnett is a great place to live. Even in our congregation, we have so many people the last few years that have moved from the coast up to Kingaroy because they want to be here. That's a good sign, isn't it? So we need to put the banners up, come and live in the South Burnett because it's a great place. And but we as a church honour you councillors and respect your role of local government in the greater South Burnett area. And we as a church, and I know other churches do, we pray for our mayor and our deputy mayor and the councillors and the workers and the staff regularly in our church prayer meetings. So please know that we care for you and we are praying for you very much. There's a verse in the Bible that says, if any one of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God who gives generously to all. And we need that, don't we? And in this hour, I certainly believe that we need God's wisdom to be able to know what is best for our region and the courage to carry it out, especially in the light of this COVID-19 era. I think it's time they shut the Brisbane arrest off and let the rest of Queensland go. Anyways, my point. But we need gutsy councillors, and you guys are just that. So good on you. Secondly, we are reminded in the Bible that prayers and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings and all who are in authority, that we, the community, may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and reverence. And that means as we pray for those in authority, which in this case is our local councillors, then we, the residents of the South Burnett, will be living in a region of peace and tranquility. Sounds like utopia, doesn't it? So, pressure's on you. So this morning, I just want to pray God's blessing over this council meeting and all the ministry staff and council workforce. So let us pray. Father God, I pray in Jesus' name that your blessing, favour and wisdom will be upon our new mayor, deputy mayor and this team of councillors as they grapple with making decisions in regard to the South Burnett region. I pray that they will provide good governance for this region and that this region will prosper and further develop under their hand of stewardship and leadership. I also pray for all the ministry staff and the council workforce. We pray especially for safety for the workforce as they are out and about on our roads carrying out various activities. I ask your blessing today over these council proceedings, especially now as it's a new season, a new time and new councillors in together. We pray, Lord, for your blessing over it, that things will flow unanimously and that there will always be an atmosphere of cooperation and working together in this chamber for the good of our community. And we ask these things in the name of Jesus. Amen. So God bless you and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Lyle, and God bless you. I would also like to, on behalf of Council, acknowledge the work that your church undertakes under your leadership, and thank you for that on behalf of the community. Thank you. We'd now like to, I'd now like to invite Councillor Duff as the portfolio holder for Indigenous Affairs to provide the acknowledgement to country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the absence of an apology from Pastor Max Conlon, it's my privilege to do the welcome to country. So I'd firstly like to acknowledge country and the traditional owners of the land where we meet today, the Waka Waka people, and acknowledge the elders, both past, present and future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. Moving on with the proceedings of the meeting to item 3 on the agenda, item 3.1, confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting, being the meeting held on Wednesday, the 18th of March 2020. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Potter. Seconder? Thank you, Councillor Jones. All in favour? Thank you all. Resolution passed unanimously. Item 3.2 on the agenda is to confirm the minutes of the post-election meeting conducted on the 20th of April. Do we have a mover for such? Thank you, Councillor Potter. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Jones. All those in favour? Thank you all. Moved unanimously. Item 4, declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest in relation to any matters listed on the agenda for today's meeting from anyone within the chamber? Thank you all. Please record that there have been no declarations of interest provided. Item 5 on the agenda is in relation to, so will you move to item 5, CEO? The Portfolio Economic Development and Corporate Performance report. And of course, we don't have as such the election of the nominations or acceptance of the portfolio holders at this time. So what we would like to do today is offer the opportunity to the incoming portfolio holders, that in other words, portfolio holder elect positions to speak to their portfolio holder. In light of that, I would like to give Councillor Shoemaker the opportunity to speak in relation to your vision for economic development moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Otto. Thank you for the opportunity to lead the economic development portfolio, encompassing industry development, agriculture, water security and tourism. Here in the South Burnett, economic development is about real people, people whose employees are like family, people who have dared to be bold, to take risks, to innovate, to challenge themselves, and to bank in on the chance that the blood, sweat and tears they have poured into their operations will pay dividends. Every business, regardless of its size, from the backyard micro businesses, the small mum and dad operations, the growing medium-sized businesses, and the large-scale enterprises all underpin the strength of our economy. We must work together across all levels of government, industry and private sector to build on our regional strengths, leverage what we have, question what could be, and make the most of every opportunity. Building that bridge to the other side of COVID-19 will not be easy, and while some businesses are finding ways to adapt or have experienced increases in demand, there are many who face continued challenges and uncertainty. For our agriculture sector, the impacts of prolonged drought are ongoing, and like many of you, it has been difficult to see paddocks that are normally planted with peanuts here in Kingaroy bare, waiting for rain. For many of our retailers, those in hospitality, beauty and tourism, the social distancing guidelines have meant closing their doors or turning the way they do business upside down. While government funding and support has softened the blow for some, and there is hope for what further stimulus packages may support our region going forward, I too have seen the lines at Centrelink. I've spoken with local retailers, cafes and restaurants, and I share our community's broader concerns for everyone's mental health and well-being. While these are difficult times for many, it has been inspiring to hear local business owners who have sought work elsewhere so they can reduce the pressure on their household budgets and cash flow and continue to employ their staff. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the companies including Woolworths, Aldi, IGA, Bunnings, to name a few, who have grown their teams to meet our community's needs and increase in demands. So many businesses have evolved their online presence to offer click and collect, home delivery, or contact-free service, and your courage to try something new, your willingness to adapt and evolve serve as a reminder that the strength of the South Burnett and our opportunities for growth in what are truly unprecedented times starts with each of us. The future is ours, and in leading the economic development portfolio, I plan to engage with our community about the aspirations of the economic development strategy that will take us to 2025, and work with the Tourism Advisory Committee to review the marketing plan for South Burnett in light of COVID-19. I look forward to working with you, my fellow councillors, and our community across our region to together shape our future. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Could we have someone move to receive Councillor Shoemaker's statement? Thank you, Councillor Froloff. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Duff. Those in favour? Move unanimously. Thank you all. We'll now move on to item 5.2.1 on the agenda, which is the officer's report in relation to the Economic Development 2020 Marketing Plan. The South Burnett 2020 Marketing Plan is closely aligned to Tourism and Events Queensland's Marketing Plan. The South Burnett 2020 Marketing Plan is a key initiative of the South Burnett Tourism Advisory Committee, and the officer's recommendation is that Council accept the South Burnett 2020 Marketing Plan. Do we have any response to that?
If I can, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to speak to that one. I've had a chat. We held a Tourism Advisory Committee meeting this week, and there was lots of discussion in relation to COVID-19 and the impacts on our region, as well as opportunities post the social distancing guidelines. And I recommend that as a council and with the Tourism Advisory Committee, we review this marketing plan with our community. We take note of the experience pillars and the hero experiences identified in this plan, and discuss those further and look for ways that we can promote our region and attract visitation in light of COVID-19 post our current social distancing guidelines.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Do we have would we have someone to move that the marketing plan be received but be reviewed in light of COVID-19? Thank you, Councillor Duff. And a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Henshin. Those in favour? Resolved unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 5.3.1 on the agenda, which is the adoption of the portfolio representative policy, as shown at page 41. South Burnett Regional Council has adopted a portfolio system where the Mayor and each councillor is a representative for specific portfolios that reflect the organisation's structure and the strategies within Council's corporate plan 2018/19 to 2022/23. A policy is required to provide clear guidelines on the roles and responsibility of the Mayor and councillors as portfolio representatives. The officer's recommendation is that Council adopts the Council Portfolio Representative Policy. Do we have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Potter. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Froloff. Those in favour? Thank you all. The motion is moved and accepted, passed unanimously. Thank you all. Item 5.3.2 on the agenda is to the assignment of councillor portfolio representation. That is shown at page 46. South Burnett Regional Council adopted a portfolio system where the Mayor and each councillor has been assigned as a portfolio representative for a specific portfolio. The portfolio system gives councillors additional roles and responsibilities and in no way diminishes a councillor's statutory responsibilities and obligations under the Local Government Act 2009. The portfolios are focused at a strategic level of council policy. The portfolio system is intended so that ratepayers and residents can identify which councillor to approach according to an issue at hand. The portfolios have been defined as follows: portfolio for social and corporate performance, people and culture, communications and media, finance and ICT, portfolio for community, arts, heritage, sport and recreation, portfolio for rural services, natural resource management, planning and compliance services, portfolio for rural resilience, parks and gardens, property and facility management and Indigenous affairs, portfolio for local disaster management, water, wastewater, waste, portfolio for economic development incorporating industry, agriculture, water security and tourism, and of course, importantly, portfolio for roads and drainage. The officer's recommendation is that council adopts the assignment of these portfolios as follows. For the first portfolio, incorporating social and corporate performance, people and culture, communications, media, finance and ICT, to Mayor Brett Otto. Rural resilience, parks and gardens, property and facilities, Indigenous affairs, to Councillor Kathy Duff. Community arts, heritage, sport and recreation, to Councillor Anita Potter. Local disaster management, waste, water, wastewater and waste, to Councillor Ros Froloff. Economic development incorporating industry, agriculture, water security and tourism, to Councillor Kirsty Shoemaker. Rural services, natural resource management, planning and compliance services, to Councillor Scott Henshin. And roads and drainage, to Deputy Mayor and Councillor Gavin Jones. Do we have a mover for the motion? Good, thank you, Councillor Duff. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Potter. Those in favour? Resolution passed unanimously. Thank you all. Moving on then to item 5.3.3, the appointment of councillor representatives on council committees and other organisations. This can be found at page 49. The Chief Executive Officer is seeking the appointment of the Mayor and councillors to various council committees and as representatives to external organisations, associations and other bodies. The appointments have been predominantly aligned with councillor portfolios. The officer's recommendation is that the following councillors be appointed as the councillor representatives to council committees and other organisations as listed below. There is quite a comprehensive list here. It is shown, it is documented there and publicly available. Do we have a mover for the motion that those be accepted? Yep. Thank you, Councillor Henshin. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Froloff. Those in favour? Resolution passed unanimously. Thank you all. Item 5.3.4 is to the election of the Local Government Association of Queensland's Executive District Representative and can be found at page 52. The Local Government Association of Queensland is seeking nominations for the election of the Association's Executive District Representatives for 2020 to 2024 to represent Wide Bay and Burnett, Division Number 3. Nominations closing at 5 p.m. on Friday the 1st of May 2020. It is the officer's recommendation that Council nominate Mayor Brett Otto to the Local Government Association of Queensland for the Executive Director Representatives for 2020 to 2024 to represent Wide Bay and Burnett District, and delegate Mayor Brett Otto and Deputy Mayor Gavin Jones to vote on behalf of South Burnett Regional Council at the Local Government Association of Queensland Executive elections in June 2020. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Duff. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Potter. Those in favour? Thank you all. Resolution passed unanimously. Item 5.3.5 is in relation to expenses reimbursement policy for councillors, can be found at page 55. Under Section 250 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, a local government is required to adopt a mayor and councillor expenses reimbursement policy to deal with the reimbursement of reasonable expenses and the provision of facilities to councillors in their roles as elected representatives. The expenses reimbursement policy for councillors must also be consistent with the 5 local government principles under section 4(2) of the Local Government Act 2009 and meet the financial sustainability criteria under section 104 of the Act. This policy is to be regularly reviewed as part of Council's commitment to good governance. It is the officer's recommendation that Council adopt the expenses reimbursement policy for councillors. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Froloff. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Jones. Those in favour? Resolution passed unanimously. Thank you all. Moving on to item 5.3.6, Councillor Code of Conduct Policy, can be found at page 63. The Local Government Act 2009 provides a regulatory framework for the adoption and enforcement of a Councillor Code of Conduct in Queensland. By adhering to the behaviours set out within the Code of Conduct for Councillors in Queensland and the South Burnett Regional Council Councillor Code of Conduct Policy, councillors will increase public confidence in local government and council decisions. The policy sets out the principles and standards of behaviour expected of the Mayor and councillors when carrying out their roles, responsibility and obligations as elected representatives for their communities. The officer's recommendation is the Council adopt the Councillor Code of Conduct Policy. Do we have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Potter. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Jones. Those in favour? Resolution passed unanimously. Thank you all. Item 5.3.7, adoption of acceptable request guidelines at 68. Under section 170A of the Local Government Act 2009, the Chief Executive Officer is required to prepare acceptable request guidelines that set out the procedure that the Mayor and councillors must follow when requesting help or advice from council employees. Acceptable request guidelines policy for South Burnett Regional Council are based on both the requirements of the Local Government Act 2009 and best practice guidelines developed by the Local Government Association of Queensland. The acceptable request guidelines policy is to be regularly reviewed as part of Council's commitment to good governance. It is the officer's recommendation that Council adopt the acceptable request guidelines policy. Do we have a mover? Yes, thank you, Councillor Potter. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Duff. Those in favour? Resolution passed unanimously. Thank you all. Item 5.3.8 on the agenda, the annual operational plan, implementation of the third water progress report at 79. The annual operational plan details the projects, services and initiatives that Council plan to deliver for the 2019-2020 financial year.
Mr Mayor, I would like to move that this item be adjourned to the next meeting to give councillors time to have a good look at it.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Potter. Does any councillor wish to speak to the matter? Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Duff. And importantly, I would like to workshop the communication strategy because I do believe in the conversations we've had as a council, an informed and engaged community is really important to us. And I would like to see that be part of the workshop and the review that's undertaken, that we do spend some time in the way in which we are going to engage with our community going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Do we have any other councillors who would like to speak to the matter? Councillor Duff, would you like to reply?
No, Mr Mayor, I'll just wait for the vote. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, the only, just seeking the intent of the resolution, this is a report on activities that have already been undertaken, not report going forward. So the adjournment of it, it's generally received for information. You may certainly by all means adjourn it, but the document is literally a report on what's happened, nothing to do with what's going forward. So if the intent is to pick certain items, by all means, we can leave it lay on the table to the next meeting. There's no issue with that.
It's actually just to, as we move forward.
Yeah. So if the intent is to workshop specific items, or you've got, what are we now, April? Certainly there has to be a workshop or discussions on the future operational plan, which will be, there's a draft being prepared, waiting for the budget workshops and the councillors to come together so we can literally throw that document on the table and understand where you want to go for this next 12 months. If that's the intent of it, just as a draft, no, that's not tabled because it's not yet ready for public distribution, because it is still literally a working draft and we haven't had your input into it yet. So in your hands, but if I could clarify what you're actually seeking.
So I'm happy to withdraw the resolution if it's just what we've already done, not what's going forward.
There we go. Learning to work the buttons. This one is up until 31st March, just a backwards-looking report for information. So there is no action comes from it. It's part of the statutory requirement to report every quarter on what's been done. As discussions that we've already had, operational plan and some of these things have been minimalist, for want of a better word, and I don't mean that in a negative way. They've just been kept very brief. Very much looking forward to Council's direction about where you want to go with these things going forward.
Yes, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I take the councillors' concerns and suggestions on board. I think it's a great idea, but I think we need to leave the resolution as is and move forward, because it quite clearly states that it's on work and progress that's already been undertaken. There's nothing gained to leave it sit on the table. So I certainly support the suggestion of workshop and everything else moving forward, but this one, it's done and dusted. We can't do anything about that one.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. The officer's recommendation is that Council adopt the annual operational plan 1920, the third quarter progress report relating to the period 1 July 19 to 31 March 2020. Do we have a mover? Thanks, Councillor Jones. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Henson. Those in favour? Resolution passed unanimously. Thank you all. Oh yes, can we please note in the minutes that the motion moved by Councillor Duff has been withdrawn. Second for that? Oh, happy with that? The seconder was happy with that? Yep, good, thank you all. Okay, on to, we're going to continue now through the portfolio. We would normally move into portfolio reports, but of course with the new council being in place, today we're going to give all of the councillors, as we have done to Councillor Shoemaker, the opportunity to provide a councillor's statement in relation to their impending portfolios. So it's with much pleasure that I'll now hand over to Councillor Jones to provide such in relation to roads and drainage. Thank you, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity to briefly speak. Taking on board Councillor Shoemaker's remarks and passed a slinger this morning that we have to make very good decisions for our community and certainly engage. That's something that I believe that this new team of councillors, led by yourself, is certainly setting a goal to try and achieve. But we've come through some pretty uncertain times in recent times in the South Burnett. We've gone through one of the worst droughts on history. We got a little bit of rain relief early in the year. COVID-19's hit us, and we're heading certainly back into dry times in the rural area. So not only does the drought affect the rural people, but it certainly affects the whole region, the residential people, the shops, the businesses and everything else. So that certainly drives home the point that this council can build like the previous term. The council made some very, very difficult decisions in the last 4 years that this council can certainly build from. It's given this council a very good platform to move forward. So again, it certainly drives home again that we have to be very conscious of the effects out there. Also, we have to be very aware that after this COVID-19 and everything else is done, we have to go on as business as usual, and the people of this region in the South Burnett will require service levels, and what level of service we will be able to give with the funding that we have or are able to obtain from state and federal will certainly determine that. So it's going to be a very, very difficult time moving forward in how we come through the other side of this, as Councillor Shoemaker has alluded to, through the building the bridge to the other side of COVID-19. And we had a meeting, I was part of that TAC meeting the other day, and there was very positive talk in that. Visit South Burnett has a very, very, very good opportunity right now to show the community the benefit of having an LTO in this region as far as tourism and business goes. And I think Jason Kinsella and the committee there are well aware of that, and the council has a huge supportive role in supporting Visit South Burnett gain their strength, I guess, moving out of this COVID-19. Not all is doom and gloom. I think there's some very good positive stuff that can come out of the other end of COVID, and it's starting to take shape quite quickly with the Visit South Burnett, I think, hold a big part or a big stake in how we come out. I'd also just like to mention and congratulate the staff, and in particular the CEO, Mr. Mark Pitt, doing a wonderful job leading council through, and all our staff. I can't speak highly enough of that, and I've done it in the last 4 years, and I'll continue to do it for the next 4 years. Our staff are second to none. They do a great job, and I want to commend them for working in very difficult times out in the community and trying to continue business as per usual. But that has certainly been led by our CEO sitting up there, Mr. Pitt. So congratulations, CEO, and to the general managers sitting behind me. If you can pass on a massive thank you and congratulations to the outside staff. And just quickly touching on the roads portfolio, as I said, work as usual is continuing. We've got big projects going on. There's one on Maidenwell, Bunya Mountains Road, one on Old Esk Road, and right through the whole region. So again, I'd just like to take this opportunity to welcome the new councillors and yourself as the mayor and the returning councillors. I certainly look forward. I've got some very good feelings out of the first 2 weeks. The dust settled now after the election. All the people have had their chance to say, whether it be positive or negative, and we treat that with how we wish to treat that, and I respect their opinions, whether it be good or bad. And all I know is we have a job to do, and I'm very confident this group of councillors and yourself and the staff that we have will do an exceptional job in the next 4 years. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Certainly would like to endorse Councillor Jones' comments in relation to the fact that we would like to certainly welcome those of us that are new to the chamber, but also very importantly acknowledge the work that Councillor Jones has done in getting the road network program moving forward, progressing it. There's been a long history to this, but significant progress has clearly been made in recent times as a result of the work undertaken by Councillor Jones with the support of CEO Pitt and General Manager Meehan. So I'd certainly like to endorse that. And of course, to all of the people who are working alongside them out there in the field and in the office, this has been a wonderful team effort. And I know that as a council, we are very much looking forward to supporting these people in moving forward and making sure that we have a road network that is going to meet the expectations of the majority of people across our region. So thank you very much, Councillor Jones. Very well said. Okay, would someone like to move that Councillor Jones' portfolio statement be accepted? Thank you, Councillor Potter. Second, I thank you, Councillor Froeloff. Those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you all. We'll now move on to the portfolio councillor statement in relation to community arts and health services. And over to you, Councillor Potter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'd just like to, first of all, I'd like to start by saying I actually look forward to working together with the new councillors and you, Mr. Mayor. With everything that's been going on in our world today, we've got some incredible staff, and the issue that we're going through now with COVID-19 has just reiterated the fact that our staff are actually quite incredible, indoors and outdoors staff. They are all amazing. Everyone has stepped up to the plate. I'd probably like to put a bit of a shout out here to some of the library staff, because the library staff during this time with the library shut, some of them have stepped into different roles. But if you go onto the South Burnett Library's Facebook page, you'll see that story time has not ceased, and there are other things on there with the Harry Potter shows and everything like that. So I really wish everyone would get on there and have a look at the story time that our wonderful library staff have done. They've done just the most incredible job. And also we've got some library staff that have stepped up into customer service, and some, like Shelley, has stepped with the LDMG, working with Donna and Aaron and Peter O'May, and they've done an amazing job. The LDMG during this time has really, again, shown us all how wonderful they are with the work that they've done. Look, this is new times. This is a new term. We've got new opportunities. We've got an amazing new group of councillors to work with, and I look forward to the future. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that my statement be accepted. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Jones is happy to second that. And can I just say before we vote on that, that I'd like to acknowledge the work that Councillor Potter has done over the last 4 years. We're very fortunate to have someone who's so passionate about communities, arts, heritage, and now sport and recreation in that chair. And I've no doubt, I think we're all feeling you're going to do another great job and achieve even more. Councillor Jones.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The reason I laughed when Councillor Potter said that she wanted to make a comment about a library staff, it's the fact that she's so passionate about it, and she will continue to support all her staff. And I'm quite open, and I'd like to back up her comments in regards to the local disaster management and acknowledge Councillor Fryloff's leadership there, also with General Manager Meehan behind me and all the other staff, Donna Brown, the likes of all them. They've done a wonderful job. But again, I would just like to congratulate Danita or Councillor Potter on her appointment for the communities and everything else. She does a wonderful job, and I'm sorry, but no one else in this room could do the job she does. And I've said it quite openly before, and I'll continue to say it. She does a wonderful job.
And I think we'd all be pleased to acknowledge the fact that Councillor Potter, that none of us could do the great job that she does, that's for sure. So thank you, Councillor Potter. Looking forward to having you in that role. Okay, well, can we vote on the motion? All in favour? Thank you. Resolution passed. Thank you, Councillor Potter, unanimously. Moving now on to item 9.1, which is the councillor's statement in relation to wastewater, waste management, and now to be disaster management as well. Thank you, Councillor Fryloff. Mr. CEO, we'd like to deal with this one. That's going to be a portfolio that would held with Councillor Henshin. Councillor Henshin, you happy to speak to item 8.1, planning and property? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Morning, fellow councillors. How good is this? We have I'll have to get an extension on this microphone. Can stand up? All right, so I hope everybody can hear and see me. But yes, what a privilege. The portfolios I've taken on board, be it natural resource management, planning, compliance services, rural services. As people know, I'm rural, and I grab these and the opportunity with both hands and really look forward to it. We have to be moving forward, take on the past and what's happened. There's been some wonderful work done in the past by the staff. I've been pleasantly, surprised with the support in the first 2 weeks of us being elected as representatives for our divisions. That's quite humbling, but to be able to come in here and get the support from the staff behind the scenes is really a breath of fresh air, and especially to me. So thank you to the staff behind the scenes. As far as portfolios are concerned, being rural, lucky enough to be experienced in a few of those fields and have a broad knowledge across not only our division, but have done throughout my life through other parts of the country and the state. So I look forward to taking on board past experiences and things that how we've progressed, where we're going and where we want to be. Cannot reiterate enough Councillor Jones and Councillor Shoemaker's statements this morning. When we started our campaigns 3 months ago, I made a statement, the South Burnett's in a position it's never been in before, and that was in the height of a horrific drought. I also made the comment, council's got to start making some decisions they've never made before. Well, there is nothing more relevant than that than where we stand today, because every man, woman and child has had to make decisions they've never made before. I look forward to that. I love challenges, and with the portfolios I've got and with the fellow councillors around me, it has been an absolute honour and a breath of fresh air to be here and take this on board. We will move forward. We're a very resilient bunch, aren't we? So with what we've got in council, and Mr. Mayor, new Mayor, and we've got Kirsty, we're the new kids Councillor Shoemaker, we're the new kids on the block. What you see with me is what you get. So I really look forward to it. And I'd like to move that my statement be accepted with the portfolios that I've received and spoke on this morning. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henshin. Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor, yeah, second of that, but haven't seconded that. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Shoemaker.
I just wanted to say thank you to Councillor Henshin, who I'm struggling not to say Hook. It's been a privilege to get to know you during our campaign. We've spent quite a bit of time together, and I cannot believe that I met you at Burrendown races this time last year, around May, and how far we've come. So I look forward to working with you, and I think you bring a breath of fresh air and a world of knowledge. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, and I'm sure all councillors will endorse what your kind words. Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker and Councillor Henshin.
Do you mind if I respond, Mr Mayor, to that?
Yes,
And
indeed.
can I quickly state, just for the record, we didn't know one another from a borough soap, and we were standing at the Burrendown races in Kirsty in a official role with sponsorship there, and many people would be aware I'm heavily involved in the Burrendown races, and what a wonderful event that is, along with many others in the Burnett. But certainly not a word was mentioned about perhaps in 12 months' time, here we are in council chambers sitting opposite one another, and yeah, what a privilege. So thanks, Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Henshin. And everyone certainly knows that Councillor Henshin has got not just a passion for, but a very, very strong connection to and a significant history in the rural sector. We are a rural community. And have an economy that's based on agriculture. I just think it's a wonderful, you're a wonderful addition to the chamber. So thank you, Councillor Henshin. Moved by Councillor Henshin, seconded by Councillor Duff. All those in favour? Thank you. Councillor Henshin's statement is passed unanimously. Okay, now to 9.1 on the agenda, and I'll hand over to Councillor Froloff to speak to portfolio of water, wastewater and waste management. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you, Mr Mayor, on becoming the new Mayor, and the new councillors, Councillor Henshin and Councillor Shoemaker, and also my fellow councillors from last term, Councillor Duff, Councillor Jones and Councillor Potter. I am really pleased to have my water, wastewater and waste management portfolios back, because I believe that in the last term we've come a long way in replacing a lot of old infrastructure around the Burnett area region with the water. We have a lot of ageing pipework and ageing things in the South Burnett which need to be repaired, fixed, replaced, and I have got a fantastic bunch behind me as General Manager Aaron Meehan and Manager Tim Lowe in the water, and also General Manager Peter O'May and Manager Craig Patch for the waste. There's always comes up with in the South Burnett about recycling, and we will look at it. Not sure if we'll be able to do it this year due to the COVID thing. We've got a lot of big decisions to make in the next 12 months, maybe 2 years. We don't know how long this is going to go. So I'm privileged to have my portfolios back, but I'm also honoured to be the chair of the Local Disaster Management Committee, and to be told last week by the District Manager of Gympie that our Local Disaster Management Group is one of a kind, and the work that they've done behind the scenes, I've just got to take my hat off to the staff, just not here, but all outside and behind the desks that are working hard with all these agencies. And to prove that we've done a good job, we've only had 2 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the South Burnett. So that is a big feather in the South Burnett, not just for the workers, but for the whole community to get that far. And I think it's fantastic, and we've got to move on, and we will get over it. As my saying is, we're all in this together, and together we'll get through this. So I'd just like to say thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Froloff. If I could have the liberty of just speaking in response, coming into council, it's been I've been buoyed by the good stories that I'm hearing, and not from within council, but from independent third-party organisations, and clearly the work that's being done at the Kingaroy treatment plant, state-of-the-art plant that is now receiving, and many people out there in the community who are watching this broadcast may not be aware that that the staff out there, facility is state-of-the-art. It is recognised nationally and internationally, and indeed we've been made aware that we've got engineers coming from overseas to see the facility and to effectively, for want of a better term, pick the brains of our local fellows who have been involved in putting that in place. So we've got some really high quality technical staff involved here, done a wonderful job. And of course, the work that's been undertaken in relation to the water supply infrastructure in Kingaroy is ongoing, and acknowledge and thank Councillor Froloff for the work in that space, and General Manager Meehan as well for a wonderful effort. There's a lot more work to do, as there is with roads, but the community can rest assured that we have a good team who are very committed to working hard in this space. Also, in relation to local disaster management, it was certainly very pleasing to hear the district coordinator speak so highly of the local disaster management group's work over recent months with what is an unprecedented disaster, one that isn't written into the manual. The local disaster management plan talks about pandemics, but doesn't say much more. And there's no rule book on how to handle this. You guys have done a tremendous job. Certainly, thank you very much. And I think we're very, very blessed to have Councillor Froloff and indeed Councillor Potter involved in leading that organisation. And could I also acknowledge the work of General Manager Meehan and also General Manager O'May in both the disaster management and the disaster recovery work that they've both undertaken in supporting the people throughout our region. The results that you're seeing and will continue to see in our response to this are the result of the work that they've undertaken, supported by the wonderful staff that we have here on council, who have been flexible, who have readjusted, who have had to acclimatise to a new environment, who have had to be redirected into new roles, particularly library staff and others, and they've done an absolutely tremendous job. So congratulations to all involved. You've been a real shining light for our region. Okay, well, thank you, Councillor Froloff. You'll move that your statement be accepted. We have a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Duff. Those in favour? Thank you all. Resolution passed unanimously. We'll now move on to item 9.2.1 on the agenda, which is to water and sewerage declared service areas. Council is to declare the water supply and sewerage service areas and provide that declaration to the regulator, the Department of Natural Resources, Mines and Energy, within 1 year after commencement of the bill. Council has already declared some of the service areas for water supply and sewerage pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 for setting of wastewater utility charges and setting of water utility charges. Declared service areas are defined in Schedule A of the Revenue Statement for each financial year. There is one additional water supply, Yalacool, and two additional sewerage schemes that are currently not declared, these being Burnett Dam and Yalacool. Maps of the declared service areas are to be published as soon as practicable after the direct declaration, showing the boundaries of the service areas and the service provider's infrastructure. A fact sheet for the changes to the Water Supply, Safety and Reliability Act of 2008, overview of declared service area amendments and a natural resource and other legislation amendment bill, service area declaration flowchart are provided for additional reference material for the declared process. The office's recommendation is that Council declare the additional water supply and sewerage service areas as follows, and that Council, as registered service provider number 491, is responsible for the provision of the services within these areas, including the operation and maintenance of the water and sewerage infrastructure that provide these services. Potable water supply service area, Yalacool water supply service area. Extent of the service area is in accordance with the maps showing the water service area at Yalacool. The sewerage service areas at Burnett and at Yalacool, and the extent of those service areas are as shown on the maps for both the sewerage service areas for Burnett and Yalacool. In addition, it is recommended that Council adopt the current boundary extents for the declared water supply and sewerage service areas for the 2021 financial year as provided in the attached report, Development of Water Service Areas and Sewerage Service Areas, Morris Water 2020 and subsequent maps of the service areas as follows. Now, I might not actually go through and read all those out. We can all see them. They're there for public information. And I think that that's probably sufficient at this time. Right, well, having gone through that, do we have a mover for that motion?
I'm happy to move it.
Good.
And also just a question to the General Manager.
Yes, we'll come
Yep,
back to that.
yep,
Thank you, Councillor Duff. Seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Potter. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. General Manager Meehan, I've just, I've had, as you would know, historically been asked to extend the Proston Rural Water Scheme, and sometimes I think there's been an odd occasion where we have been able to actually allow someone else onto that scheme. So is that still, once we've adopted this particular mapping, is that still an option if there is, you know, someone outside that mapped area wanting to get onto that scheme?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. To answer your question, Councillor, the report here relates to the adoption of those scheme areas. The Morris Water report was done in line with the new MIP program, so we thought it best that Council have those new maps redone so that the information is accurate and you can plan for that. In relation to extending the scheme, that'll be a decision for Council to go through its planning process around its ability to extend the water network, and that ultimately will come down to allocation costs for consideration in future. Council, through its strategic planning, through its op plan and those things, in the coming year or so, will have the opportunity to look at some options that are available, whether that's possible or not, or what mechanisms Council might want to put in place to assess those applications, if that makes sense, Councillor. Happy to discuss it further off,
yeah.
if you wish.
Through Mr. Mayor, I was just more talking about individual people that we were able to put on the scheme. We've been sort of tweaking it. It's just if they're in a particular area where the pipes are wide enough and we were able to just get a few extra on there here and there, particularly through the drought. Is that still an option? Yep.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just response to the councillor. I'll probably take that one on notice, councillor, if that's okay. It's probably on a case-by-case basis. The scheme boundaries shown here is what the scheme boundaries are, so any extension to the scheme would have to be considered by Council's engineering section and then obviously brought back to Council for a discussion further, if that's okay.
Thank you, General Manager Meehan. Right, well, we have the motion at hand. Those in favour? Thank you all. Motion resolved unanimously. Okay, we'll now move on to item 9.2.2, which is the South Burnett Regional Council Customer Service Standards in relation to water and wastewater, a 5-year review. That can be found at 147. The Water Supply Safety and Reliability Act of 2008 requires Council to establish and publish customer service standards and key performance indicators for water and wastewater services. As part of meeting the legislative requirements, Council is required to publish a document detailing its customer service standards for consultation and public comment. Council uploaded a draft version of the South Burnett Regional Council Customer Service Standards Water and Wastewater for community consultation on Council's website between 17 December 2019 and 3 March 2020 and asked for feedback from the community. A media release was also released to alert the public to the draft service standards and was published on Council's website and Facebook page on 20 December 2020. No feedback or comments for the South Burnett Regional Council Customer Service Standards Water and Wastewater was received. Council officers have therefore reviewed the customer service standards and updated where required to meet any legislative changes that have occurred over the past 5 years. The South Burnett Regional Council Customer Service Standards Water and Wastewater are submitted for Council adoption. It is the officer's recommendation that the South Burnett Regional Council Customer Service Standards for Water and Wastewater be adopted. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Froloff. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Potter. There's no comment. Those in favour? Thank you all. Resolution has been passed unanimously. Moving on now to item 10.1, which is the councillor's statement in relation to the portfolio. And it's a little bit different, but Councillor Duff, if you can please speak to your portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'm very excited with the new team of councillors and welcome you, Mr Mayor. I think it's all good. Although, as has been mentioned, we're going to be through challenging times with the coronavirus as it continues. But yeah, I'm really pleased to take on Indigenous affairs again. I've had a long association with Indigenous community in our region, and there's a lot happening in that space, particularly now with the coronavirus, a lot of issues, particularly around Cherbourg. But as has been mentioned, the local disaster group have been managing that and helping in a big way, and been named by the local Mergen police and everyone, saying what a great job our disaster group are doing with regards to helping with the Cherbourg issues. And also really pleased that we've now got the Welcome to Country as part of the formal council meeting process. I think that that's a really good way forward. And so really keen to support the Indigenous Affairs portfolio again. I also, the Parks and Gardens one, I have had that for quite some time, and I think that it was identified in the election that we need more efficiencies in the Parks and Gardens, and so I'm keen to work with this team and the CEO to see if we can get that to happen. There's probably a lot we can do with drought-type plants, and maybe doing concreting on median strips that taking a lot of time to mow, things like that. So there's a lot to happen in that space to get some more efficiency. Also, the properties section, it's a huge one for council, particularly with asset management. I think with all our halls and swimming pools and everything that we've got, it's probably one of the biggest portfolios. But part of that is working with community groups, which I love to do, and working with them with leasing arrangements. So I'm really looking forward to that. I know there's lots of issues, both positive and negative, with the leasing arrangements currently with council community groups. But yeah, I think challenging times, particularly with, like, we've got Ringsfield House. I'm keen to work with Councillor Froloff on that one, and just different ways we can probably manage our halls. And maybe we've got a lot of halls that are council controlled. Maybe we could lease them out to community groups. So there's lots of things we can do. So really excited to be part of that particular portfolio. And the final one, which I'm really keen to get my teeth into, is the rural resilience. And I'm really, really pleased that we've now got rural resilience and also rural services, as well as agriculture, in the economic development section, because we are an agricultural region. So it's just fantastic that we've got 3 councillors dedicated to part of their portfolios to support the rural area. I'm looking forward to working with Councillor Henson, because he and I are both very much rural councillors. I've got on a property that's been in our family for over 100 years, and right out in the far northwest boundary of the region. So pretty much understand the issues with rural communities. And so rural resilience is the one that I've taken on. And so with the new drought package, I'm looking forward to working with Councillor Potter on that one, because we've actually got a component of that will go particularly to rural resilience. So just keen to work with this team. I think we've got a fantastic team, and looking forward to an exciting but challenging 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. Will you move that your statement be accepted?
Yes, I move my statement be
Good.
accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. Do we have a second for that? Thank you, Councillor Potter. I go to Councillor Potter. She's immediately on my left often. But if I could also now just speak to that matter, as was said in relation to the other 3 councillors who are returning councillors, acknowledge, Councillor Duff, the contribution you've made over a number of terms to the South Burnett region, and particularly for the work that you've done in rural communities across the region. We have brought in a new portfolio area of rural resilience, because as a council we have all agreed that supporting our rural people through ongoing issues, particularly in response to drought. The drought is far from over. We are still well and truly in the midst of a drought, and Councillor Duff's role in rural resilience will be a very important one moving forward. And of course, in working with Councillor Henson and Councillor Shoemaker in relation to rural services and the economic development of agricultural industries will be a very important role. Having said that, of course, all the councils around this table, we all have a contribution to make to rural resilience. in our different portfolios, because at the end of the day, we are predominantly a rural community. So, thank you, Councillor Duff. Those in favour? Okay. Sorry, Councillor Jones, but thank you very much anyway. The resolution has been passed unanimously, and we'll now move on to item 11.1, which is the councillor statement in relation to finance, ICT and human resources, and I'll have the pleasure of presenting such. Thank you. Well, firstly, can I say, again, welcome to fellow councillors for joining our new team South Burnett, our new council team. I really feel that we do have a wonderful balance in our new team of experience with returning councillors and energy and passion that comes with the new councillors complementing that wealth of experience that we do have. I'm very happy with the portfolios that we've allocated and the skill set that we've got from each of the councillors who've been assigned those portfolios. And I'm very pleased to myself, as a fellow councillor, be taking on the portfolios, some very important portfolios in terms of corporate governance, in terms of finance and ICT, and particularly in terms of people and culture. What we've all come to realise, well, those of us who are new to council, is that we have a tremendously committed and passionate team of people. Councillor Jones has alluded to this morning, working for our organisation. We are very fortunate to have a group of people who share a culture of commitment and passion for the region. It's not just a job. I've come to see that firsthand, and I think that's been something that's certainly been enhanced under the leadership of CEO Pitt and under the leadership of the senior management team. So thank you to the senior managers for the wonderful work that you are doing, that you have done and continue to do. I very much look forward to working with you in terms of developing that into a stronger culture. And I've said for some time that in response to the question, what would you like to achieve over the next 4 years? And I guess as a portfolio holder for people and culture, it's so that we can all 336 council staff and all 7 councillors, we can all walk down the street holding our heads high, being proud to wear the South Burnett Regional Council uniform, proud to have the badge on our uniform, knowing that we are doing a sterling job for the people of this region. So look, I'll leave it at that. Thank you all, and I look forward to working with everyone as we move forward. Thank you. I'll now move that my councillor statement be accepted. Secondly, Councillor Friedhoff, thank you. Those in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Duff. Councillor Jones wants to speak. Thanks, Councillor Jones.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I just want to respond for the people that are watching and all that sort of stuff. They probably think this is a bit of a love-in and we're backslapping each other and all that sort of stuff. And can I just say that it's interesting to hear your comments this morning about the committed staff and all that sort of stuff, because the general public's perception of council staff and all that sort of stuff, and it's been mentioned that there's mistrust and all that sort of stuff across the community, and I'm well aware of that, and there's reasons for that. But in the last 2 or 3 years, and I'm not a big one for going back, but I just think it needs to be said that the culture has certainly changed, and there was a strong push from the previous council and the mayor to change that and make the staff feel as if the councillors and the mayor were supporting them. Now, I can speak roughly for about the roads. The guys that are out and the women that are out on the roads doing a wonderful job. It's their efforts that I'm standing here today. A big chunk of what they do out there is the reason I'm back in council for another 4 years, and I can't speak highly enough about the people that I deal with. And it's the relationship that you build with your staff, and the culture of this place has certainly changed over the last 2 or 3 years. And to hear you say, and I know that you were a bit sceptical, and I'm not being, it's just a fact that, you know, you had your concerns about different sections of the staff and whatever else, but to hear you come in, and once you get in and see the runnings of the staff and the council and all that, it's a whole different world to what people actually think is going on. And I just really want to say to the people that are probably watching today, we're a committed bunch of people. There's 6 councillors and a new mayor and all the staff. We are committed to try and make the right decisions for council. We are going to make decisions that everybody, or not everybody, will like. And that's what we're elected for. It's not a popularity contest. We're here to do the best we can for the region. And I know that in the last week and a half, when I first got into council 4 years ago, I was excited and wanted to change the world and everything else. And once you get your teeth into it, there's all sorts of red tape legislation and all that. And you say that the enthusiasm that's brought in with the new councillors, I can tell you it's rubbed off on the other councillors that have returned too. It's a really added bonus to this council. And I just want to say and say to the people of the community that our staff, the council employees, the councillors this term, and the previous council as well, and the ones before that, we are committed to trying to do the right thing to the people. And, we'll have you become public enemy number one now. Once you put a councillor jacket on and all that sort of stuff, you're public enemy number one, and you will get bagged, as you know, you've all experienced it. We've just got to treat it as it is and respect their comments, but get on with doing the right thing for our region. And I just wanted to say to the people, there'll probably be comments that are made, oh, look at them all slapping each other on the back and they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Well, that's just the relationship that we have in this room and the staff right across the region. So I just wanted to put that out there and make it aware that, I'm aware that that'll be comments made, slapping each other on the back, sitting in your ivory tower and all that sort of stuff. But we are a committed bunch of people to make the right decisions moving forward. So thank you, Mr Mayor, for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Jones. And if I can just say that was very well said. And of course, to the people who are watching this broadcast or who do watch at some point in time in the future, I think it is fair that one gives credit where credit's due. And sometimes in life you form a perception that is not always accurate. And that perception is influenced by the people that you are surrounded by, and people have certain views. But I've certainly can be very honest in saying that my perception of the administration of council has changed significantly, having been here over the past 2 weeks. And that isn't a result of just simply talking to people and listening, but undertaking my own research and investigations into how council is functioning and operating. And I've certainly come to know our senior management team as a group of people who are very committed to this region, who are very passionate about the region, and that is very much the case. So I think let's give credit where credit's due. Let's call a spade a spade. That's exactly what I'm seeing here. I know the community feel that they would like to see us more connected. We are all committed to engaging more with the community moving forward, sharing more information as best we can. That isn't always possible to the extent that everyone would like, but we'll do our absolute best to engage with the community moving forward, and also to share the good stories about the good things that are happening in council. Because the people that work in council, they're people with families and lives and career aspirations, and they deserve to be acknowledged for the good work that they do. Now, having said that, if we do from time to time have issues in council inside people and culture with some staff, well, I'm very confident that we have a senior management team who will take the appropriate measures to rectify such. But we do need to start on a very positive platform, acknowledge the good work that people are doing, give a commitment to the community that we will be engaging and sharing more information with you, and that we will also be working very hard to ensure that where we can't undertake certain things that certain members of the community would like to see happen, that we share with them, with the community, the reasons why. That they understand that there may well be legislative or budgetary constraints around that prevent council from doing the things that we would all like, that some would like to see happen. So we all need to be reasonable in that regard. But I certainly endorse Councillor Jones's comments that we have a wonderful team. It's been a real opener for us newbies coming in. And I'm just very confident that we're going to be able to achieve a lot despite the challenging circumstances. To the people of the South Burnett region, I can say to you that we do have a very cooperative, cohesive council team. We have a group of people here who are independent of mind, and we are supported by a very capable, competent and committed senior management. And that provides the ingredients for what I believe will be a successful next 4 years. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Have we passed that one through? Yes, we have. Well, we haven't. We have to vote on that. So I'll move that. And Councillor Duff, we have a seconder? Yep, thank you. Oh, we just got to vote. Okay. I'm still settling in. So to everyone watching, as you can see, I'm still a little bit rusty. Not so much nervous, but a bit rusty. So all in favour of accepting the councillor statement, thank you, accepted unanimously. Right. Okay, on to item 11.2.1, which is the monthly financial report, including the third quarter review of the 1920 operating and capital budgets, found at 200. And go to there. So the matter is as to the monthly financial report, as I said, the third quarter review of 1920 operating capital budgets. And the following information provided here is as to Council's position as at 31 March 2020. This includes a review of the 1920 budget undertaken as at 31 March 2020. The amended operational budget results in a net operating deficit of $3,949,095. Changes to the capital budget, result in an increase of $3,198,682, bringing the total available budget up to $37,405,240. It is the officer's recommendation that in accordance with Section 204 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the monthly financial report, including capital works, road maintenance, expenditure and works for Queensland as at 31 March 2020 be received and noted. That in accordance with Section 173 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the revised 1920 operational and capital finance budgets be adopted. Okay, Mr. Chair, am I able to move a procedural resolution?
You are, or call from the floor, whichever you prefer.
Yes, could I call for a floor on this matter?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move a procedural resolution that we adjourn this until the next meeting to give the new councillors time to have a look at the whole budget. There's a lot in there, and I just think because we've got some new councillors that we need to have more time, and I'd like to put it on the table until the next council meeting.
Do we have a seconder for that motion?
I second that motion. I certainly have some concerns around the report and some of the information detailed here, and I think it would be, as custodians of our ratepayers' money, only fair to actually dig a little bit deeper and make sure we all fully understand this report and what it is that we're actually moving here. I think there's been some great work by the finance team. I certainly understand there are a number of legacy issues in this space. And yeah, I would definitely appreciate the opportunity to work with you through this report.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. I'll now open the matter to the floor for those who'd like to speak for or against.
Mr. Mayor, may I just, the procedural resolution is fine. There certainly is, the report's presented to this meeting because it's the first meeting past caretaker. I might just tinker with the wording a little bit before it's passed so that it's represented to the May general meeting, Linnell, if we may. And yes, no, there is a lot in the report. Spoken to the general manager involved, and we would be very happy to workshop it with all councillors.
Yes, thank you, CEO Pitt. And can I say that in terms of the detail on this, attached in this report, there are some significant issues that need to be addressed. Some of the matters are consequential as to COVID-19 and the impact that's had on the capacity for council to raise revenue, as well as additional costs that have arisen as a result of such. So in light of the current situation with COVID-19, I would like to speak for the motion as being a sensible approach in relation to this. Okay, so those in favour? Thank you all. The procedural motion that the report be accepted and the matter be adjourned until the May general meeting has been passed unanimously. Thank you. Item 11.2.2, which is the revenue policy for the financial year ending 30 June 2021, found at 301. Section 193 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 requires a local government to adopt a revenue policy for each financial year. The revenue policy must include 1. Details of the principles that Council intends to apply for levying rates and charges, granting concessions for rates and charges, recovering overdue rates and charges, and cost recovery methods. 2. If the local government intends to grant concessions for rates and charges, the purpose for the concessions. And 3. The extent to which physical and social infrastructure costs for new development are to be funded by charges for the development. The policy has been prepared having regard to the current legislation and information provided by Council during rating workshops that have been conducted over the past months. It is the officer's recommendation that in accordance with Section 193 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the following revenue policy for the year ending 30 June 2021 be adopted. Do we have a mover for such? Thank you, Councillor Potter. And a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Duff. Does any councillor wish to speak to the matter? Okay, those in favour?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
I'm
Councillor
just,
Shoemaker.
wondering, are there any significant changes to this policy from the previous policy that new councillors should be aware of? Like, it looks, General Manager, no, it looks straightforward, but I just wanted to confirm and check. Yep.
Yes, so the response there is that the policy has had no significant or material changes at this point in time, and so we will vote on such. All those in favour? Resolution passed unanimously. Thank you all. Item 11.2.3 on the agenda says the fees and charges schedule at page 308. Each year the Council considers the level of fees and charges. The fees and charges schedule attached includes both the regulatory fees and commercial charges. Section 97.2 of the Local Government Act 2009 provides example of a cost recovery fee/regulatory fee. A cost recovery fee is a fee for an application for the issue of renewal, a licence, permit, registration or other approval under a Local Government Act, being an application fee, recording a change of ownership of land, giving information kept under a Local Government Act, seizing property or animals under a Local Government Act, the performance of another responsibility imposed on local government under the Building Act or the Plumbing and Drainage Act. A commercial fee is a fee for service that Council provides. However, the services could also be sourced from another provider. In the case of cost recovery fee/regulatory fees, the Act also states that a cost recovery fee must not be more than the cost to the local government of taking action for which the fee is charged. The fees and charges in the attached schedule are consistent with the 1920 schedule, which reflects a 0% increase. The charges for 2021 financial year reflect Council's appetite for financial stimulus to the South Burnett community. The fees and charges from the 1920 budget was $3.8 million, and as at 31 March 2020, Council had received $3,341,997 in fees and charges. Traditionally, a 2% increase has been applied annually in line with the budget adoption. Recognising a 0% increase attracts a reduction in revenue of $76,000. To support this stimulus initiative, all prepaid hall bonds have been refunded, and the intention is to review the decision in 6 months. As per Section 98(1) of the Local Government Act 2009, South Burnett Regional Council maintains a register of cost recovery fees. As such, it is the officer's recommendation that the fees and charges listed be received and adopted from 1 July 2020, continuing in place until further reviewed by Council. Do we have a mover for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Duff. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Froloff. Thank you, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just through you to the CEO, are we correct? I know that it says there'll be no increase in fees and charges, but some people may have adjustments on their rates notice, will it? So as the last rates notice to the rates notice moving forward, some people will see adjustments or whatever? Could you please explain that?
Would be happy to. Slightly different space. This one's in your commercial and regulatory fees as per the schedule, not on the rates charges. So this one won't show up on a rates charge. So the rates are yet to be discussed as to what's council's intention with that, and where the water, sewage, waste or bin fees, general rate. So they're yet to be discussed and decided. This one is more dog registration through to how much do I pay for a building application fee. There will be specific sections, water standpipe, for example, that will need to come back, and they will be individual reports presented to council so they can be considered. There are actually a couple that can probably come down. They will be brought back as individual reports, and then there was a previous term discussion about a couple of the fees in there and winding them back. Cattle impoundment was one of them. From memory, I don't think we've done that one yet, Pete, our General Manager. So on this one, people on their rates notices won't notice any difference because it has no material impact on the rates notices. But if I was a tradesman and I was reliant on a commercial fee for council going forward, I can actually quote jobs with full confidence that that fee won't rise unless there was a specific individual report that came back to council.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I'm really keen to see this happen. I've been keen that our council shows huge support for our community with regards to the COVID-19, and I see this as one way of showing it's a morale boost. The council, we normally put the fees up by 2%, but this time because of the coronavirus, that we've actually thought about the community and that we're holding those fees. There'll be a review of where they land. Some might need to be tweaked, but I'm just really pleased that as a show of support for our community and the challenges that they're facing, that we are actually holding these fees at zero rise. Thank you.
Also, yes, I thank you, CEO Mark. I agree. I would like to have a look at those standpipe water charges. And I also would like to better understand the roadside grazing permits. I know there have been some discussion in council that we here in the South Burnett have not been charging additional fees for those permits during the drought. So I'd just like to better understand that, if you could talk to that, please.
Would be happy to. The roadside grazing permits is an interesting one. A very good question, and thank you. The fee that's charged by South Burnett Regional Council is only the state government component of the fee. It is by legislation, so by law, we must charge that fee. We have no ability to waive that fee, and unless the state informs us in writing that they don't wish to collect that fee, we must collect it and pass it on. So the council component, councils are able to charge an extra on top of the lawful state charge. We do not charge the extra fee. We just keep it at the base state. And for the 2 years that I've been with council, we've, at both political and officer level, contacted the government and asked for a waiver on that. When we request that waiver, we request that individual councils can make their own by resolution decisions. There are some councils where that fee is quite an important part of their management process of stock routes. It's not our intention to have any impact on those councils. Each local authority should be given the responsibility. It's been our policy position to date to determine its own future and make its own charge regime. But at this point in time, we don't have lawful power to do that.
And just with regard to the standpipes, I do understand they were heavily used and accessed during the drought. I have had some contact from a number of landholders around those, and I guess I just want to make sure, I do understand there was some vandalism last year with those standpipes, and just want to ensure that the charges that we are actually charging for the water at the standpipe, that it is, whilst it does support our community through times of need, that it is used for the right intentions. And yes, I'd welcome any comments about that.
Thank you, Councillor. Again, it'll be its own report. You were correct. We did have a degree of difficulty with individuals probably not acting in the best behaviour. We have, actually, it's probably a topic that we could bring particularly with new councillors, the level of vandalism across a range of facilities is an actual real cost to this organisation and the community. But yeah, the standpipes will be brought back as their own report. There's a fair bit in it, and it will be quite a substantive report and review.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. Just in response to the councillor's comments there in regards to the standpipe, I just want to assure the councillor that the previous council had numerous conversations in regard to the charges that we were charging on the water standpipe. We decided, I think, to let things roll because it was getting and working our way towards the election and all that sort of stuff, obviously, but the assistance it was providing to the community and all that sort of stuff, I thought it was, or council thought it was a pretty inappropriate time to adjust the fees on that standpipe charge. I totally agree that those charges need to be reviewed because, in fairness to all people that are paying rates and water charges, those fees unfortunately need to be lifted up to a suitable and fair and equitable charge across the region. So that situation has certainly been discussed previously with the council and Councillor Fryloff leading the charge there in her section of water. There was a lot of vandalism and it was huge cost, and the new implementation of the payment system with the cards and all that sort of stuff. So there was a lot of stuff going around that particular item of discussion, and that's why the charges weren't adjusted then. So it's certainly, I take your point, councillor, and more than happy to work on it in the future.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I just wanted to talk about that roadside grazing one, because for me it is a big deal, because in the times of drought we are forced to charge that state government charge for adjustment, and it just seems so wrong, and we get blamed for it, putting out adjustment fees when people are really struggling in drought times and they want to get their cattle out on the road, and it puts council in a bad light. And so we have lobbied the state government, and I think we need to continue to lobby the state government, but particularly in drought declared times, that fee is waived, because it is just so wrong to me, even just for the morale of the rural people, just to see a fee being charged when they're just desperate to get some grass. So yeah, I'm really passionate about that, and I think particularly the councillors and mayor and deputy mayor who take those fights forward to the state government, you really need to be strong on that particular one.
Mr Mayor and Councillor Duff, I can speak from experience on the roadside grazing. At the height of the drought, I had applied for a permit myself and had cattle on the road for 9 weeks. I think we can work closely with the state government, and I think also the rural fires, they can play an important part with that. It can become a very good management tool. We've gone from a situation of our worst drought in some 150 years to, as we'd be well aware, the grass on the roadsides at the moment, and with the conditions coming into winter, we're going to have a major fire issue come July, August, September. So I think with consultation with the right people in the right departments, we can perhaps address that and get a better outcome. I understand fully the charges because I paid them myself and I wasn't aware to start with. But I think the fact that South Burnett Council waived their right to charge on top of the state government's charges needs to be recognised as well as one that the public weren't aware of. So being in that situation myself, I commend the South Burnett Council for not implementing another fee on top of the one. And like Councillor Duff said, under conditions, and we're going to go back there very shortly with winter around the corner. So that's something I think we can certainly look at and improve. Thank you.
Yes, thank you to all councillors who've provided comment in relation to this matter. Certainly it was important that we do clarify to the community that the roadside grazing levy is a state government charge, and that unlike some other councils, the South Burnett Regional Council has adopted in support of the grazing community, the beef production community, beef producers generally, to not levy any additional charge over and above that which we collect effectively and pass on to the state government. The matter is something that is important. It's very important to our beef producers throughout the region. Beef production is a significant contributor to our region's economy and has been through decades now of challenging times as a result of the drought. That being the case, I think it is incumbent upon us as a council to appropriately represent those people in the economy who are struggling, and this is another impost on them that we need to make representation to the state government on, because as Councillor Henson has rightly pointed out, it helps manage the fuel. That is obviously a fire risk. We've had recent bushfires, and certainly makes our job easier in terms of managing the roadside, the grass on the roadside. So some very good points made there. It's important to note that the resolution here does provide for, in relation to these fees and charges, does provide the opportunity for council to review such from time to time as we see appropriate. So should there be a need to perhaps, in response to community concerns or where there's a significant community benefit to amending the fees, the fees and charges schedule, they're not rates, so they are in fact independent fees and charges, then we can do so at any point in time in the future. Right, so we've had a conversation on that. All those in favour? Thank you all. The resolution is passed unanimously. Right, we're progressing quite well. Is the chamber happy to continue? We're now moving on to a few final matters. The next one being 11.2.4, sale of land for overdue rates. An update on such in relation to the auction held on the 19th of November 2019, details of which can be found at 363. So in summary, following on from the council resolution passed at the 20th of March 2019, a meeting to commence the sale of land for overdue rates, action on certain properties, 17 remaining properties were offered for sale at public auction on Tuesday, 19 November 2019. All the properties were passed in. The highest offers were less than the reserve that was set. Following negotiations with the highest bidders, 15 of the 17 properties were subsequently sold. 2 properties were passed in, and consequently, in accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012, council automatically became the purchaser of 2 properties at the reserve price. It is recommended that council receive the report and approve the write-off of any unpaid rates and interest charges, plus unpaid overgrown allotment charges that were not cleared by the proceeds of the rates auction, being $308,298.34. It is the officer's recommendation that this report be received and that council approve a write-off to the value of $306,047.87 in unpaid rates and interest charges, plus the $2,250.47 in unpaid overgrown allotment charges that were not cleared by the proceeds of the rates auction. The total requested write-off is therefore valued at $308,298.34. Could we have a mover for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Potter. A seconder, thank you, Councillor Duff. I'll now open the floor to councillors wishing to speak to the matter. Thank you, Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I hate this one, I really do, and this is something I hope that doesn't happen again. But through you, Mr. Mayor, can I ask General Manager Jarvis to explain some of these charges, if that's all right?
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Thank you, General Manager Jarvis. If you could speak to the matter.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The report clearly states about the outstanding allocations of land. So what has happened is that a review was done on the overdue rates. Several properties, or 17, were identified, with a total of the rates arrears were within total plus other charges was $597,943.84. Now, out of that total amount, $289,645.50 was recovered. However, the write-off amount there is requested is $308,298.34. Now, these rates had not been recovered for over 6 years with no sense of recovery. So it was passed by council in, I think, March of 2019 to proceed with the sale of this land. When it was sold, we incurred a land tax of around, and the exact figure, it was $107,000 that hadn't been budgeted for. So hence, the net effect on council there is, which will affect our, sorry, the two were passed in, but I'll just tell you the net effect, which will affect our balance sheet. But all in all, we have amended our policy in future. So the net effect is $48,897.48, and that will reflect there on our balance sheet. We have instructed our staff to amend our policy with regards to recovering rates, and to also do a search for any land tax prior to the sale, but that would not have changed the circumstances of the sale of these rates. So as it is now, we are closely monitoring all the rates, overdue rates, and we will certainly be proceeding. It's not a nice thing to sell somebody's properties up, but obviously we have a duty of care for our ratepayers and council to be more vigilant and keep our eye in future on any of these overdue rates. Does that answer your question, Councillor Potter? Thank you.
Yes, yes, thank you, General Manager Jarvis. Councillor Shoemaker.
I do fully support General Manager Jarvis in the pursuit of debt going forward. I understand there are some legacy issues there, and do acknowledge the work your team has done in this space. Certainly selling property is not, of course, anything that we should hope to do. But yes, I do believe this council, you have our full support to pursue debt in accordance with good business principles. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Thank you.
Yes, if I can also speak to the matter, and I'll hand over to Councillor Jones also to speak. First of all, coming in new to council and studying what has, I suppose, transpired in relation to this matter, what I can share with the chamber is that council provided reasonable opportunity for the relevant ratepayers to enter into an arrangement, an appropriate arrangement. Having the current administration of council having effectively inherited this problem, the previous council indeed having inherited this problem. Having provided that reasonable opportunity, council then also provided the opportunity for not just to clear the rates, but of course to sell the properties and do so. We have, and from my analysis, had council not acted to go through the correct process as governed by the regulations in doing this, there would be very little chance that council would have collected the almost $290,000 that they have as a result of their actions. Where we see ourselves now is a situation whereby, due to the COVID-19 crisis and the economic impact of that, I would be very surprised, and I think Value would support my statements, that I would be very surprised if the market value of those blocks of land, in fact, the extent to which they could even be auctioned and sold, would be significantly compromised as a result of what we're going through now. So in summary, I mean, to put it in clear terms, had council not acted to do what they did when they did, we wouldn't be recovering the $290,000 that we've recovered. We would be likely to be facing a much greater loss. So I think that council did the only thing that they could do in mitigating the loss. They took the appropriate action. And as I said, I think had they not acted when they did, we would have been in a much worse situation here. The reality is that we are never going to get the money for those blocks of land we would otherwise have hoped to.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This Councillor Potter's remarks, where this is one she doesn't like, this is one that doesn't sit well with anybody in the council, and I fully support what you've just said. And General Manager Jarvis, our net our net effect on our bottom line going into budget talks will be $48,000. It could have been a whole lot worse. This is a prime example of public perception will frown upon council because we didn't do anything and all this sort of stuff, let it go on for too long and all the rest of it. And I fully commend your comments, Mr Mayor, that council done what they did, and if they hadn't have done what they did when they did, we would have been in a lot worse position. So, yeah, this is just another classic example very early in our term that it won't sit too well with the general public, but all actions have been taken to have the best outcome for our ratepayers. The other thing I want to mention is that Councillor Shoemaker's comments on Councillor Jarvis's section chasing money. We had this discussion late in last term, and we fully support right down to even chasing $500. Some people say, oh, it's going to cost you more than that to get it out, but it will set a precedent that we're just, you know, when it comes to banks, insurances, all that sort of stuff, we're the same sort of thing. We're just easy targets, easy access. We get the complaints and all that sort of stuff. When they ring people up in insurances and all that, either you pay or you don't get it. And in fairness, look, and don't think I'm being harsh or don't understand the difficulties in the community. I totally get it. But in fairness to our ratepayer base, we have to be consistent and try and get all funds outstanding so that we're not relying on the people that do pay their rates and can afford it to carry the burden. So this is a very tough one. No matter what you do with rates and how you adjust it or try and fix problems or address an issue in a certain community area, you will always have a roll-on effect into another one. You'll never win with rates, and this is just an unfortunate thing. And I do commend our staff for doing what they've done, and yeah, fully support into the future that we chase anything that's owing to us to set a precedent. Don't give up on a $500 debt or anything like that. So, yeah, so thanks for your comments, Mr. Smith.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Jones. If I can just reiterate that you know, we have certainly, this council has made a clear commitment in recent days and given a strong, I suppose, indication of support to our finance team that in the interests of the council finances as custodians of ratepayers' money, and in the interests of equity, pursuit of equity and fairness for all ratepayers, that we will be supporting our finance team in pursuing outstanding debts that sit on our books, whether it be $50 or $5,000, and that we will be certainly using the powers that are provided to us to make sure that in future any rates that are overdue are pursued appropriately. You know, where we have properties, rates that are in arrears for in excess of 3 years, we do have the legal capacity to then act on those, and ultimately, unfortunately, in some cases, we'll have to sell the land to recover such. But I think we're in a much better place now in terms of being positioned to actively pursue those debts and ensure that this doesn't happen again. It is an issue that has hung over, that this current council and the previous council have had to deal with, and I commend the council for doing so, because as I said, let's be very clear, you would be foolish to think that we would get the $290,000 that we got if we had have let this go any longer, particularly now knowing what we know about COVID-19. If we're in a position where we had to try and sell that land this year, under the current economic circumstances, I would be very, very surprised if we got anywhere near the $290,000. So, you know, the people that made the decision to do this, last council, have effectively, I think, saved the community a lot of money, because that $290,000 would not now be in the bank. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, just a quick one, Mr Mayor. Just to finish off, I just want to acknowledge the finance section are not toe cutters. They will go, they have hardship policies, they are willing to work out payment plans, all that sort of stuff. So we don't just stick them on and chase them down and anything like that. Once they catch them, they're quite happy to work with them, and we totally get the hardship that's going on in our community, especially rural areas and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, we are a very low socio-economic area, so our staff do take all that into account, and it's not just a matter of chase them down, get it and sell them up. They do a wonderful job trying to work out payment plans and all other options. So I just want to make that clear as well.
Yes, Councillor Jones, it's very important that everyone does understand that council does have a hardship policy, and that where ratepayers are unable to meet their commitments, our finance staff have always been and will continue to be open to having those conversations and putting in place the necessary arrangements. Let's be clear that these sorts of actions where we have to go in and auction up land is a last port of call. It's something that council doesn't want to have to do. It's not a pleasant process. It is a costly and time-consuming process for council, and we would much prefer that ratepayers seek to enter into payment arrangements and work with our council finance team to come to a resolution. But at the end of the day, where we have ratepayers who just don't fulfil their obligations over a long period of time, having been given sufficient opportunity and all fairness to do so, then we do have a responsibility on behalf of the community to collect as much of that rate revenue as we possibly can. Again, I would support Councillor Jones and commend the finance team and assure the community that our finance team will work with you. But please understand, we are custodians of ratepayers' money, and we have a responsibility to ensure that the revenue is appropriately collected and that that is done in a fair and equitable manner. Thank you all. Okay, well, we have the matter on the table, and as I said, we would now move to vote on the matter. All those in favour? Thank you. We'll take the resolution as being passed unanimously. I can see Councillor Jones looking at the clock. We're overdue for a cup of tea, but we're making really good progress this morning. We've dealt with some fairly significant issues, but I would recommend that we progress forward to finalise the meeting. Everyone's comfortable with that? Very good. Right, well, we'll move now on to item 12, which is consideration of notices of motion. Do we have any notices of motion? No, there were no notices of motion. So we'll move on from that to the information section, item 13.1, list of correspondence pending completion of assessment report. Mr. CEO, is there anything we need to deal with there?
No, strictly for information.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Item 13.2 is the Delegated Authority Report, which can be found at 368. And this report comprises a list of reports that have been approved by Delegated Authority. The officer's recommendation is that the Delegated Authority Report, as stated here, be received. Do we have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Duff. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Jones. All in favour? Yes, resolution passed unanimously. Thank you all.
Sorry, my apologies, Mr. Mayor, misunderstood. We just need to receive that first one as well for
yes,
information.
sorry, my mistake. Well, we need to receive that as such, that correspondence. Yes, all in favour? Thank you. Passed unanimously that the correspondence be received. Oh, sorry, second, moved by Councillor Potter, seconded by Councillor Duff, resolved unanimously that the correspondence be received. Thank you all. The Delegation Authority Report resolution has been passed unanimously also. Thank you. And we don't today have any confidential matters as such. So that being the case, I will now, do I need to move that the meeting be closed, Mr. CEO? Or I'll simply close the meeting. Thank you all to fellow councillors, to CEO, to staff for your attendance. And we'll look forward to our next ordinary meeting, which I believe is on the third Wednesday of May.